tubular. I think I screwed my tongue up a little there.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, I know this is gonna sound really bad, but I've been looking at gameplay videos of Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, and they totally ripped off Smash Brothers Brawl or even Melee for that game. But I'm okay with it.
Uh, I'm
like,
sorry.
like looking at the little like
Every time somebody brings up melee, it makes me groan.
no, no, when I say they ripped it off, I mean like how it plays and how like the little like icons and stuff. But I'm okay with it, and I'm actually more excited for the characters in Nickelodeon than I am for any of the announcements I had for Smash Brothers. Like all my enthusiasm for Smash Brothers kind of went out for Ultimate. But
Yeah.
like like when they announced Ren and Stimpy, I was like, yeah, Ren and Stimpy. I'm ecstatic with joy that Ren and Stimpy is coming to Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, or April O'Neil's a playable character. She can actually kick ass, and they don't have that Megan Fox April O'Neil, like the Turtles. They don't have those shitty ass reboot Nickelodeon Turtles that they brought. Like it's like the shit we grew up with, like the
I was
'89 cartoon Turtles.
gonna say it's not the. I was gonna say, thankfully, it's not those turtles that they rebooted again. Oh
Yeah,
god,
like
that
if
did
it
me.
like if it was the CGI Turtles from that show that was CGI that came out before the current reboot, I'd be okay with that. I wasn't crazy about it, but I could deal with it. And if it was like the 2003 when they went ultra dark, I could also deal with that. But the latest one with that fucking over exaggerated, I was like, I can't deal with this. This is too much. But no,
Yeah,
they
and I
went,
was about to say
1980s. They know who this shit's for.
they they didn't go with the one that had the. I was gonna say at least they did not go with the Raphael's the leader concept. Oh god, that
No, no, they have Michael. They have
that still gives me
Michelangelo.
a nightmare.
Yeah, they have Michelangelo and Leonardo. I'm pretty sure as DLC they'll probably add the other two turtles down the line, and I'll be okay with that because I'm a TMNT fan, and any game that lets me play as the TMNT that has the old style and not that new stuff, I'm okay with. They have old school '80s April O'Neil. Now the original April O'Neil was black with a Jerry curl, and I like that April O'Neil, but it's like those are people like the people who like that April O'Neil are like in their 40s because they were reading the
To
Mirage
be honest
comics
with you,
when
I've
they first
never
came out.
seen that April.
Yeah, that's the
So
original. That's the original TMNT from like that's the original TMNT. Like the original TMNT was in black and white, um, and the turtles all looked identical. Splinter was well, he was a ninja rat, but I mean like a ninja in the classical sense, where he's like he like raised the turtles just to assassinate Shredder. That was his big thing, and the humor was not really there. And April O'Neil was a lab assistant for Baxter Stockman. She wasn't a reporter, and she was a black lady with Jerry curl. Like she had, because this is the
funny
'80s
enough,
when the Jerry curl was in.
one of the reboots of of the Turtles had April O'Neil first working as Baxter's
Oh yeah,
assistant.
yeah, that was the 2000s reboot, the early 2000s reboot that was like darker and grittier and more like the original comics, but it still was like it still was kind of like it was more like the comics, but it still was kind of like it still took aspects. It took aspects from the it took more inspiration from the comics, but it still had aspects from the old stuff too, because Michelangelo was still kind of a you know the pizza
Party
guy.
dude.
Yeah, he was the party dude. Donatello was did machines. Leonardo was the leader, and Raph was cool but crude. You know, um, and
Yeah.
Splinter was still a pretty cool dude. He was a radical. He was still a radical rat.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So yeah, every time they announce a new character, like they have Nigel Thornberry, they have Buttered Toast Man, Ren and Stimpy, and then they have characters that I don't really care about because that's not my era of Nickelodeon. Uh,
The Sponge.
actually, like SpongeBob came out when I was in high school, going into college. So I'm not really like I watched SpongeBob, but I'm not like into it like younger kids are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like like for me, like okay, like how kids how kids that are like 3 years younger than me are really into Power Rangers. I miss the Power Rangers train. Or kids that are like 2 or 3 years older than me are really into Thundercats. I missed Thundercats and He-Man and shit like that. That's not my age group. But here's their list thus far. You're gonna have Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. You're gonna have April O'Neil from TMNT. And it's gonna be like '80s April O'Neil with that jumpsuit that's way too damn tight. You're gonna have Cat Dog. Eh. I mean, they're probably cool fighters, but I never like the whole joke of Cat Dog is that how does this animal shit? That's the whole joke.
Uh, that, that's enough. That's enough of a thought processor
Yeah,
breaker
it's
right
like
there.
okay, well that's the whole joke of Cat Dog, is that where did they come from and how did they take a shit? That's the whole point, and they never answered it because it turns out they're adopted.
Here's the thing. The, the, there's more. I thought close to the way you did, but I didn't think of the number 2.
Either way, it turns out they're adopted. They never do answer where they come from, but they do. You do find out that their parents are a yeti and some other mythical creature, and they were adopted. It's some weird shit like that because I saw that Cat Dog Nickelodeon movie. Helga from Hey Arnold. So for me, when I play this game, or sorry, the next character is Danny Phantom. That was a good show. They got canceled way too early.
Oh, I could believe you on that one.
Oh yeah, Danny Phantom was a good show. Here's how you know there isn't justice in the world. Danny Phantom got canceled, but the Fairly Odd Parents kept on going. What justice is that? Helga from Hey Arnold.
Mentioned
Which
already.
I'm glad she's there because then you can play as other characters and beat the shit out of her. Because
Amen.
Helga, if there ever was a character, like I remember watching Hey Arnold where that big girl who looked like she had skipped a grade, I mean, she'd been held back, she beat the shit out of Helga, and I was like, I don't feel sorry for Helga at all, because, look, listen, if you see a girl that big and you're in the girls' class, you don't fuck with her, because she's huge. You're asking to get an ass whooping. They're going to have Korra from The Legend of Korra, which I don't like that show. I like the original Avatar that
I was about
has...
to say, ain't that the last Airbender sequel?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like it, but I just didn't like it. Like it, I wasn't into it. Like I liked the first one. The second one, I was like, I'm not feeling it, because they did a time jump, and there's all like they did a time jump, and there's all of this information that's just fucking missing. And like, I wasn't really feeling it, but a lot of, I mean, they're fans of that, so whatever. They're gonna have Leonardo from TMNT, obviously. Lincoln and Lucy Loud from the Loud House. I've never heard of this show.
It's something like a toned down version of the Fairy Odd Parents mixed with the Brady Bunch.
Well, that sounds stupid. They're gonna have Michelangelo from TMNT. Nigel Thornberry from the Wild Thornberries. Oblina from Aw, Real Monsters. I wonder if they'll have Ickis and Crumb as well. They'll have Patrick's... What?
I hope they do. And if anything, I already know they got Patrick Star because of course you can't have the sponge without the star.
Yeah. And then they're gonna have Powdered Toast Man, Rin Hoek from Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy are a tag team fighter.
No, they're gonna have individual characters.
Wait, really?
Yeah. They're gonna have...
I thought they were I thought they were a team fighter.
No, there might be like a special move where they team up, but on the list thus far, they say that these are official characters. But that's what I'm. This is the latest article.
Yeah, but okay. It's just that if anything, the last thing I remember was seeing the two of them are fighting as one character, like the ice climbers.
I mean, if that's the case, cool. But you get Ren and Stimpy. Anyway, they also have Reptar from Rugrats, Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob SquarePants. Obviously SpongeBob SquarePants, Simpson J Cat. That's not that they call him Stimpy J Cat, but that's not his name. His name is Stimpson J Cat. And Stimpy is the shortened version of his name of Stimpson. So it's Ren and Stimpy. Yeah, Stimpson J Cat. That's his name. And Zim from Invader Zim. So yeah, these are all great characters to have. I mean, it's a wholesale ripoff of Smash Brothers, maybe Smash Brothers 4. But maybe this will have a better story mode. Although, considering how shit the story mode was on Smash 4, even if this is just on the level of a Melee story mode, it probably is already better than that one.
I wouldn't give my hopes up.
I mean,
but then again,
the story mode for 4 was so bad. It was like that bar is so low that even if it's like just like, oh, we just ripped off Melee story mode, it's automatically better than the one we had in 4. That story mode was terrible.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have to say this, that the low bar of story mode is set by All Star by PlayStation All Stars.
Yeah, but I'm not comparing it to PlayStation All Stars. I'm comparing it to Smash Brothers because this is literally ripping off Smash Brothers, which we said when PlayStation All Stars came out and how they were trying to change all this shit. We were like, it would probably be better. Yes, we are talking about Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. It would probably be better if they just ripped off like PlayStation All Stars. The reason it failed is because it was trying too hard to be different from an established formula. Like if you're gonna do if you're gonna do like a party beat 'em up game, you got two choices. You can either go Smash Brothers knockoff, or you can go what's the other fighting game that's like a party game?
Brawlhalla?
No, because Brawlhalla is ripping off Smash Brothers too. You can either go there or you can go Power Stone. And to be honest, Smash Brothers is like a 2D version of Power Stone. How's it going, Kirby? What's up?
I've never heard of Power Stone before.
Yeah, well, I mean, Power Stone is basically like it was like a 3D arena version of Smash Brothers, except Power Stone came out before Smash Brothers. So basically, like Smash Brothers is a ripoff of Power Stone.
Yeah. I would say that some games are inspirations and other games are ripoffs.
Yeah, well, I'm not against ripoffs because some ripoffs are better than the original.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this is we can look at this in modern pop culture. Oreo is a ripoff of Hinox, but Oreo is better than Hinox. So I mean, that's just the way it is. Sometimes stuff rips stuff off, and the ripoff is better than the original.
Understand? Did you guys ever play Rivals of Aether?
No, I have not. I've heard of it. I've never played it. I don't play a lot.
Very good.
I've seen the game in action. It's quite wild.
Yeah, I don't play a lot of games like that. But I'm just saying, like like Nickelodeon All Star Brawl. It looks like it's ripping off. Even in the name, it looks like it's ripping off Smash Brothers Brawl, and I'm okay with that. I like Smash Brothers Brawl. If you're gonna rip off a Smash Brothers game, rip off Brawl. Except have better online fighting, and I'm cool. And they already said they're using like the best they're using Rollback Netcode, which is if you play online multiplayer fighting games, that's like the best online code you can use. And so I mean, basically, they're ripping off my favorite Smash Brothers, and they're using the best net code you can for the online multiplayer. So, I mean, really, if it has a halfway decent story mode, I'm good. That's all I wanted. And it has characters like most of the characters they've announced I actually like. Except for
Good.
the loud characters because I've never heard of that show. But the TMNT characters, the Hey Arnold characters, half of the Avatar characters, and they've got SpongeBob SquarePants, which I mean, I don't really like Patrick Star, but they've got Sandy Cheeks. Anyone remember that episode where they were making fun of like Sandy was singing about how she wanted to go home, so they were like, we're gonna have a party for her, but in order to get her to the party, they tease Texas, so she's like chasing them down. And like there's a scene where like she lassos Patrick and drags him away. He's like, no, and there's like a nuclear explosion where he lands. You don't see what happens to him. You're like, God damn. Sandy Cheeks is hardcore, man.
Yeah, I can see her being in the game.
Look, if she's
a hazard.
Yeah, if she's half as dangerous in this game as she is on that show, she's gonna be an OP character. Yep. Sandy is as I terrifying.
Sandy's a hazard. If you get her angry, you might want to start running for the hills fast.
Yeah, yeah. The only character who's more dangerous in the SpongeBob universe is maybe Mrs. Puff, because she's a blowfish. And she's
what about those thugfish that came after SpongeBob in the movie?
I didn't watch any of the SpongeBob movies. I don't like SpongeBob like that. I watched the original show, and then I don't watch because generally speaking, to me, whenever they do a movie version of a popular cartoon series, the movies suck. Like I haven't seen one movie version of a cartoon series where the movie was good.
Oh.
Like those Transformers movies, I don't think any of them are really very good. I really don't. Most of the TMNT movies have been terrible, except for the very first one that came out in '89. Sorry, '90. Yeah. The Power Rangers movies are bad.
I consider them cheese, but they're not that terrible.
No, they're bad. They're bad. The first Power Rangers movie was bad. The second Power Rangers movie, Turbo, also bad. The reboot, bad. They just cannot make a good Power Rangers movie.
That I will agree with. The reboot was terrible.
The only good thing
about the other two, at least I consider them cheese.
The only good thing about the first two movies is that they're cheesy, and they know they're cheesy. They know that this shit is not serious. Now, that third movie took itself way too seriously. I'm like, come on, man. These are about teenagers with attitudes forming a giant Zord fighting giant monsters. In my opinion, the Power Rangers, all three of the Power Rangers movies, if they had just animated that stuff, it would have been much better. Because basically, Power Rangers is like a ripoff of Voltron. Okay?
Voltron.
That's all it is. It's a ripoff of Voltron, except instead of
I have to disagree with you on that, at least.
How so?
I mean, come on. At least if anything, you got a fantasy universe, you got space,
yeah,
and you basically got these invaders that are just plain stupid, trying to do all kinds of mumbo jumbo.
Well, okay, you're right. Power Rangers is not a ripoff of Voltron because Voltron actually has threatening villains and well-trained heroes. Because like the witch Hagar, King, whatever his name is, and his son, they're actually competent villains.
Lofar.
Yeah, they're actually competent villains. The villains in Power Rangers are just sad. I mean, the original Power Rangers. Like, I don't mean like later runs of Power Rangers had some villains where I was like, these villains are actually competent. I'm amazed. And I know what some people want to say.
There's Power Rangers that we haven't not all in this region.
Oh yeah,
Like
because
there's a.
it's all rip-offs of shit from Japan.
I was
But
gonna say that there was a two-team Power Rangers series that had three Rangers that were working for the police and three Rangers actually working for the villains in a sense because family was under threat.
yeah, well, anyway, so yeah, there's a whole bunch of Power Ranger shows that have never been localized, or actually, I shouldn't say localized. The footage wasn't ripped off and turned into a show here in America. But anyway, let's get to these topics. We went off a tangent there. What outrageous game features or concepts would you want in a future Legend of Zelda game? It has to be outrageous. It can't be something, plausible. Who wants to go first?
I probably would go with an easy one. Um, multiple character selection, as in you actually could choose between Link and other characters that you meet along the way.
All right. Kirby.
Need to be in a big city like New York.
So you.
And
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
and also he ends up talking.
So a talking Link in a less post-apocalyptic pastoral setting. I'd be cool with that. I think it would be cool to play a Legend of Zelda where you're not, because almost every Legend of Zelda we have is either post-apocalyptic, so after some huge catastrophic event, or you're like in the country. And it would be kind of cool to have a Legend of Zelda that's just instead of you exploring like, you know, the the countryside and different locales in the country. I think having it just be in a giant modern city, that'd be cool. Kanoshi.
I like Hyrule to be a galaxy, like each planet be dedicated to a race.
That'd be
So
cool.
Actually, I'm
see
actually surprised
Zoro.
you thought that.
The Zora would have some
the
water
Zora
planet. The
water
Gorons would
planet,
have some like volcanic rock planet.
Yeah.
The Kokiri would be like Ewoks. They'd have a forest planet.
Yeah.
And the Sheikah would be on a desert planet like Arrakis, like Dune. They'd be like the Freeman on Dune.
Good one.
Dune. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Yeah. That'd be a cool concept. Here's my outrageous game feature I'd like to see. We probably never see this because Nintendo, just for some reason, doesn't want to do this with the Legend of Zelda series, but I thought it would be cool. I would like to see a Legend of Zelda that actually takes place outside of Hyrule. Because you have this we know that there are other countries in the Hyrule in the Legend of Zelda.
I'll make the joke that we had one, but I'd say that's still a little too close to Hyrule myself, and that would be Hytopia.
Not in the 3D Zeldas. The 2D Zeldas have been more experimental and going other places. But we know that there are other countries and other places, and yet they don't like it's kind of like the problem with the Star Wars universe, where they keep on going to the same familiar places over and over and over again. It's like, you keep on telling us that this is a galaxy. Why aren't we going to other places? Well, we know that Hyrule exists out, like there's other places. Hyrule isn't the world. Hyrule is just a small country that apparently is the most unlucky small country ever, because bad stuff is always happening in Hyrule. I think it would be cool to have a Legend of Zelda game where at least you go to another country. At least 50% of the game takes place in another country, or maybe 30%, where like 30% of the game is in Hyrule, 30% is maybe on an ocean with islands that you have to
Wind Waker.
Kind of Wind Waker style, but it makes sense that you're like, it's not just an endless ocean. Like, there's islands where you can do quests and meet new like meet new cultures, discover new things, and then the last 30% takes place in this other country that tried to invade Hyrule in a war, like tried to destabilize it and do some stuff. And have the villain not be Ganon, because I mean, look, listen, I said this in the past that it's not a Legend of Zelda game unless Ganon is the boss. But at this point, I'm tired of Ganondorf. I am burnt out. I need a break from Ganon. I need a break from.
And this is the 3D Zelda as we're talking about, not the 2Ds.
Yeah, because the 2Ds have had a good mix of villains, right? Because in Link's Awakening, the villain was well, actually, no. In Link's Awakening, it was Nightmare. It was the Nightmare. It was the Nightmare that had overtaken the dream, the Windfish. In the two, in Oracle of Ages and Seasons, it was the two generals of darkness who actually were Kume and Kotake trying to resurrect Ganondorf. And when in order for you to get Ganondorf, you had to do a lot of stuff. So you kind of earned the right for Ganondorf to be there. Then you had the two DS games where Ganon wasn't the final boss. Then you had the Minish Cap. It was Vadi. In Four Swords Adventure, it was on the Game Boy Advance, it was Vadi again. On the one on the GameCube, it was Ganondorf. Ganon was behind it all. Vadi was just a puppet. But I mean, that was a really cool version of Ganon, so I'll give it to him. But I mean, it was kind of sort of Ganon in Link Between Worlds. Kind of, sort of, even though they were like,
it was a fusion.
Yeah, it was a hybridization.
The villainess tried to
Yuga
use Ganondorf, and Yuga tried to use Ganondorf, and she found out how hard it was.
Well, Yuga was a really effeminate dude, and he fused with Ganon. He fused with Ganondorf, with Ganon, and turned into Yuga Ganon, which I was just like at this point, it's like I'm burnt out on Ganon as being the main villain in Legend of Zelda games. I need something, and I know what some people say. What about Skyward Sword? Come on, man. Come on. That boss was Ganon with a full head of hair. I'm not bald. That's basically what he was. I think it would be cool to have a Legend of Zelda where you're not always fighting the same type of enemies over and over again. I just thought that would be a cool thing. I know some people are going to disagree. Just go to different places, see different things. Maybe have a Legend of Zelda where Link isn't the chosen one and doesn't have the Triforce of Courage. Like, he's just a normal person who has to earn his abilities. Hell, maybe make a Legend of Zelda that goes full on RPG where Link doesn't have the Triforce of Courage, so there are no heart pieces. He's got to become more, gain new powers and abilities just by leveling up. Doing experience.
I would like to see a Zelda RPG. Same with Kirby RPG.
I'd be cool with it. I know some people are gonna, that's blasphemy. Here, I got something wild. This made some people angry when they heard it. What if they made a Legend of Zelda game where the main character was a girl?
I'd like that kind
Some
of.
people don't like that. Some people are like, "Oh, you can't do that." I'm like, I don't care. Like,
Whoa.
I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with having a Legend of Zelda game where the main character was female, whether it was Princess Zelda herself or because then you could have a character and don't do just a female swap of Link. Like, literally create a new character who's female. and has
Yeah.
a different way of attacking and traversing the world, different tools, because clearly a female character would play very differently from Link. And that's okay. You'd have
I was
completely
gonna make
different
this
gameplay.
the joke. Don't. I was gonna make the joke that don't be Linkle.
Yeah, that's just kind of lazy. I know why they did it, because they didn't want to make people angry, but I'm like, who cares what people think? Do something, take some chances, do something different. But yeah, these are all really good, outrageous ideas. Anyone have any other outrageous idea they want to go with before we move on to the next segment?
Link without a Master Sword.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. Because we've had handheld games where there was no Master Sword. You didn't have the Master Sword in Link's Awakening. You didn't have the Master Sword in either of the Oracle's games. You didn't have the Master Sword in the Minish Cap. You don't need the Master Sword in every Legend of Zelda game. I mean, the Master Sword becomes kind of a crutch, because it's like if they made a Legend of Zelda game where
It's a cliche.
well, not even just a cliche. Okay, if you have the Master Sword, then the people who do weapon and combat don't have to come up with new weapons. They can just say, "Well, you found the Master Sword, you're good." You know what I mean?
Actually, I was gonna say that this is the one time I feel like the Master Sword got outclassed, and in a good way, by of all things, Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah, the Master Sword's not even that. It's not even the best sword in the game. There's like 2 or 3 swords you can find in the game that are better than the Master Sword. The only
Like the Bigoron sword in Ocarina of Time.
no, because the Bigoron sword did more damage, but it had disadvantages on top of doing more damage. Like you couldn't block with it. You couldn't so it was kind of like it was a lot of risk and reward. There are legit weapons in Breath of the Wild that are better than the Master Sword. The only time the Master Sword is
Outshadowed.
is worthwhile to use is when you're fighting Ganon, because it glows and its base damage is 30, goes up to 60. That's it. That's the only time. But here's the problem. You can get the Ancient Sword, which has a base damage of like 68. Or you can get like some of the other weapons in the game that do like 80 damage. So it's like, like this could have been alleviated if Breath of the Wild had the sword tempering.
Better weapon control.
Well, the sword tempering mechanic that other Legend of Zelda games had. Because it would have been cool. Hey, I'm collecting all this useless crap that I mostly will use for a few minor things. It'd be cool if I could take this to a blacksmith and have them upgrade my weapons, or fortify them, or add special components to them, which is something they had in Majora's Mask.
And they even experimented in this with the also Link Between Worlds a little bit.
Not really. In Link Between Worlds, you use money in order to rent or buy the weapons you normally find in dungeons.
I was gonna say that you basically had the sword get forged up by ore, the Master Ore, and you had to find all 4 of them.
Yeah, but that was just a throwback to what you did in the original Link to the Past, where you could basically upgrade your sword by taking it to certain people. Like your level 1 sword was the base weapon you got from your uncle when he fell into the well and got his ass kicked. Your level 2 sword was the base Master Sword. Your level 3 Master Sword was the tempered Master Sword that you got. Like at a certain point, you could find the blacksmith who got lost in the Dark World, take him back, turn him into his brother. Deliver him to his brother, and they would forge it. And then the level 4 Master Sword was the one that you took to the
given by the Great Fairy.
Well, I called it the Fat Cursed Fairy. You took it to the Fat Cursed Fairy in the Great Pyramid, and threw it into her fountain, and she would turn it into the golden Master Sword, which was really powerful, by the way. But I mean, you didn't have to
It's so
find
powerful
anything for that. There were side
it
quests
was
connected
throbbing.
to that. What?
So powerful that it was throbbing in your hand.
Uh, I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
I
That was.
guess.
I'm sorry. It was just that. It was just too easy of a line to not pass
Yeah,
up.
but it was a cool concept. Like Link Between Worlds kind of made it kind of cheapened the experience where you have to find ore. Where in Link to the Past, there were like little like side quests associated with upgrading your weapon, which was cool. Um, so there you go. But anyway, yeah, it would be cool to have a Legend of Zelda game. But yeah, the Master Sword becomes a crutch because then they don't have to come up with new weapons. They just say, "Oh, you found the Master Sword. Yeah, it's powerful. It's the Master Sword." And I'm like, whatever. Anyway, you guys finished, or you guys want to move on to the
I
next
think
topic?
we're set.
Okay then. What old game desperately needs a remake, and how would you want it done? This topic was created in light of the Diablo 2 remake, ActRaiser Renaissance, KOTOR being remade by Aspyr or Aspire. So, what old game do you think, man, this could really do with being remade, and I would want it done
Ooh.
like this?
Th- this is gonna be a little tricky for me. I want to actually see how Commander Keen would fare in the third dimension.
So, go
I
full
mean,
3D?
it works for Duke Nukem in a sense. Like, it works for Duke Nukem, but let's try to evade Duke Nukem Forever moments.
Yeah, but Duke Nukem 3D and the myriad of expansions for that game, plus the two Duke Nukem games that were on the N64 and PlayStation. I mean, like, I could see a 3D Commander Keen. I wouldn't trust Bethesda to make it. You'd have to find a good studio to make it, but it could be done, I think.
Yeah. The other one I think would be Catacombs, which which I know we haven't seen in a while, but
I don't even know what game that is. What's Catacombs?
Cat- Catacombs is kind of like a Wolfenstein game, and I was actually wondering,
Okay.
yeah, but you're facing off against the forces of the nine layers of hex.
Okay, I was wondering because I was like, I've never. So it's one of those games that one of those myriad of Wolfenstein clones when Wolfenstein came out, Castle Wolfenstein 3D came out
Yeah,
back in the day. Okay, all right, I'd be cool with that. Since you haven't been on the cast for a long time, Kirby, you want to give your old game you think should have
Yes, I definitely have one.
a reboot
This
or remake?
is perfect, I think.
Okay, go ahead.
Mm, mm. Though I want to see mm, the Super Mario Land remakes. Both Super Mario Lands being remade.
For the Game
The
Boy,
Switch.
the Game Boy Super Mario Lands.
Yes.
I'm behind you on that. But what art style do you want it to be like? The new Super Mario Brothers art style, or do you want them to go back to a more stylized, cell shaded look?
I want them to have the same graphics that were in Wario Land Shake It, or something similar to that.
All right, okay, that's cool.
You see, I was thinking it'd be like cartoonish, but like 2D cartoonish, but
Stylized, but not like New Super Mario Brothers, which is like uh 2D 3D hybrid.
yeah, I'm getting tired of that art style. But anyways,
Yeah, I'm gonna save my unpopular opinion. Well, I'll just say it now. I never liked the art style of New Super Mario Brothers. I preferred the cell shaded look from Super Mario World, stuff like that.
oh yeah. Well, anyways, another thing I want to talk about is that I want the physics to play like Super Mario Bros. 3 on the Game Boy Advance. or like Super Mario World.
That'd be cool.
Um, or even New Super Mario Bros. DS, but like I don't want it to be too floaty like New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
I could see that. I think they should have never added those 3D moves to a 2D Mario game. Like they're
Oh,
supposed to play differently.
right.
Like that's kind of like
I
where I think
mean,
they kind of messed up a little bit with those games.
I mean, when I played Super Mario Maker, the New Super Mario Bros. Physics was good enough for me, but like, so it could be like that if they want. But like, another thing I want is like, um, in Super Mario Land 1, I want there to be 12 more levels that are new and original.
That could work.
Um,
All they'd
and
have to do is just create like, let's see, there's 4 worlds, so maybe add let's see, 4 worlds, maybe add like 2 levels per world, 2-3 levels per world.
yeah. Another thing, in Super Mario Land 2, I'm thinking there should be checkpoints in the Wario stage. But then they make an extra level like in Galaxy 2 where it's a very hard level.
Well, the Wario stage was kind of hard if you took the hard path to get to Wario. Although Wario
Oh, there's
himself
a
is not hard.
path?
Yeah, there's like 2 paths. There's an easy path and a hard path. Kind of like how they have an easy path and a hard path for
Oh,
in Super Mario World, Super Mario Brothers 3, where there's an easy path and a hard path to get to Bowser.
oh yeah, true. I remember that. But yeah, that's my thoughts about the remake. Please remake Super Mario Land games.
I'd be cool with that. Maybe add some more maybe add some more areas to go to, cuz in Super Mario, like Super Mario Land 1 is pretty basic and it wouldn't take a lot to add new stuff to that. Super Mario Land 2 though is like a full-on Mario adventure. So they'd probably have to add new lands to go to.
Yeah,
And I'd be cool with that.
true.
Uh
Well,
Kenoshi,
that's why I said
no,
there
sorry.
needs to be extra levels.
Yeah, yeah. Kadoshi, do you have some old game that you think, man, I enjoy this old game, but it needs to be rebooted or remade?
I like to see a Super Mario 3 Super Mario World mashup.
That'd be
Sort
cool.
of a Super Mario 3 game, similar levels with the Super Mario World, the Super Mario World map.
I'd be cool with that.
There might be a hack about that.
Well, I mean, if you played Super Mario 3 or Super Mario 3 Advance or Super Mario World Advance, you could with the e-reader cards, you could like add new levels from those games into the other game and power-ups from those games in the other game. So
Yeah,
I'm imagining it would be something like that, but
different.
I mean, I just imagine it would be something like that.
Yeah.
And I'd be
Oh
cool with that.
yeah. I'd be cool if there's Super Mario Bros. 3 remake with multiplayer. That would be cool.
That's a little bit of a hazard, but I could see it happening a
Or just
little
make
bit.
the levels a little bigger.
Yeah, I could see that. Super Mario. The only problem with Super Mario 3 is that there's power ups that are utterly useless, except for like a few levels. So if they had, if they remade some of the levels or added new levels where certain power ups opened up new ways to get through that level, that'd be great. But you know, Nintendo doesn't really do remakes of a lot of games, and when they do, sometimes those remakes aren't great.
Mm.
Um, so, but hey, we're talking about old games that desperately need a remake. So, let's see. Jewel went, Kirby went, Kenoshi went. It's my turn. I would like to see. a remake of all 3 Final Fight games. Call it the Final Fight trilogy, but instead of just doing like a 1-for-1 remake and like a better engine, take a page out of Kunio-kun, aka River City Ransom, and Sega's Yakuza series and stuff like that, and add RPG mechanics. Like have you go through the city, go into alleys and stuff, talk to people, do side quests, and then have the beat 'em up where you're like beating up people and stuff. But like you level up, your stats get better, so you have more health, you do more damage, your attacks are faster, stuff like that. Um, I'd be cool with that. Like you get money, you can get money and spend it in stores and merchants to get stuff, and like different weapons, different characters could have preferred weapons that they do more damage with, or have special combos, because they did that in Final Fight 3 on the SNES. But I'd be cool with that. And do like a art style that's I don't want this like, because I see a lot of games, a lot of beat 'em ups on Steam and consoles where they try to do the 2D pseudo isometric view of old school beat 'em ups, but it's that ugly art style. If you're gonna do an art style, I want it to be like the new TMNT game coming out, or Streets of Rage. I want cell shaded. Okay, stop trying to make this stuff look pseudo 3D. Okay, stop it.
I was about to say, stop trying to make it look like it's real, like it's real life. We
Yeah.
already got real life in it. It sucks.
Yeah, real life
Orbs.
sucks. I play video games to escape reality. Okay, but yeah, I think that'd be cool, like a remake
And
of
if
Final
anything,
Fight.
stop with the VR throwing, please. I think we got enough.
I mean, it. I mean, Turtles in Time did it, and it worked. Like, there's like 2 boss fights where you have to do that in order to do damage to enemies. So, throwing characters into the screen, I'm okay with. But if it's overdone just for stylistic purposes, then no. But if there's a gameplay concept, then
Yeah.
I'm okay. Okay, then. So, anything else you guys want to add before we move on to the next topic? Yes, no, maybe so? Nothing? Okay,
Maybe
then.
a Zelda
I'd
1
say we-
remake too.
A Zelda 1 remake? I could see that. A Zelda 1 remake, and I'll tell you a Zelda game that desperately needs to be remade. Zelda 2.
Oh yeah.
Zelda 2 desperately needs to be remade. Because that game has a
Someone lying.
lot of issues.
Oh,
If they remade it with a better combat system and slightly better art style, I think it could work. Finally, I'm sorry, next, what would you like to see added to the Nintendo Online Library next? We're talking games and consoles to the Nintendo Online Library. Since
The
they
Cube.
announced Genesis and N64. The Cube?
it's only... Yeah. It's only a matter of time before the Cube arrives. Yep.
I don't know if Nintendo will do it. I don't know if they'll pull the trigger on that one. I think you'll see TurboGrafx 16 and Master System before you see GameCube.
What is
Although-
it about the GameCube that they don't want to re-release anything?
Well,
Yeah, it was such a good console.
it's not just that. Here's the thing. They're emulating, like, all those games running on your online library, they're being emulated, okay? When you do those, when you download the Nintendo Online service, that massive, like 500 megabyte, 1 gigabyte. I don't know how big it is now, but I know when it first came out, it was like 500 gigabyte. It was 500 megabytes. You're downloading those games. You're downloading emulators to play those games that are plugged into the software. There is not a good GameCube emulator. I know people say Dolphin 60. Dolphin. The Dolphin emulator is great, but here's the thing: the Dolphin emulator is great if you're running it on PC. The Dolphin emulator, I don't think, you need a decent PC to run the Dolphin emulator. And there isn't a decent Dolphin emulator that runs well on a console. And the
That
Switch,
makes sense.
the Switch is a hybrid console that's using a tablet CPU, a heavily modified tablet CPU, but a tablet CPU. Go and try and run a high end emulator on a tablet. Go ahead, go and try it.
That's the video I need to make. Now, you gave me the idea.
All right, you can't. Okay, it's unless you're playing something that's really simple like the NES, the Atari, the SNES. And don't forget, like, here's what people need to understand. It took years for SNES and NES emulation to get good. Years. Okay? Years. All right? And those systems were relatively old by the time the emulation got good. Like, and GameCube emulation, N64 emulation still isn't very good. There's certain, even the best N64 emulators, there's certain games that run poorly on even a high-end N64, high-end, even the best N64 emulator running on high-end hardware, there's certain stuff it's just not going to be able to run very well. All right, Kirby, give your sign off, and then you can.
Bye, everyone. TS Nintendo Gamers signing out.
All right, have a good day.
Laters.
Peace. But yeah, so I don't know, man. I mean, I'd like to see GameCube as well. What games would you like to see?
Dreamcast.
I mean, well, Jewel said GameCube, so I was gonna let her elaborate on what games she'd like to see on there.
I'm at least hoping for Mario Party 4, Luigi's Mansion, and maybe Paper Mario or what was it? The Fantasy Star Online.
I'd be cool
That's
with
4
that.
games at least.
Resurrect those games. Kanoshi, you said Dreamcast. What would
Yeah.
you want to see on the Dreamcast library on the Nintendo Online?
Well, obviously Jet Set Radio, Crazy Taxi,
Mm-hmm.
and the first Sonic game.
Sonic Adventure.
Yeah, Sonic Adventure.
All right. I'm gonna. Okay. All right. Any other games you'd like to see from the Dreamcast on there, like Seaman, Power Stone 1 and 2,
Yeah,
Seaman,
Power Stone.
Rival
people like that
Schools,
game.
I was
Soul
gonna say
Calibur,
Seaman would require a microphone.
the first Soul Calibur.
I would actually Project Justice myself.
I guess I'd rather have Soul Calibur. The first Soul Calibur, Soul Edge. I'd rather have Soul Edge than Project Justice. But you do you, bro. Half-Life ported to the Dreamcast. It's a fairly decent port. I mean, the Dreamcast had some really good games. The original Skies of Arcadia. It's pretty good. Pretty goddamn good.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff on there. I mean, there's certain features that were exclusive to the Dreamcast with its VMU. Good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Okay, out there idea, shit execution. The VMU.
If anything, this is why I miss something like that. I mean, you get to play with your save files.
Well, that was Sega with the VMU. I mean, like the Dreamcast was literally Sega saying, "Fuck it, let's throw everything to the wall, see what sticks." And it was Sega in absolute desperation mode, which is a good thing because you got some games that, like most other console makers, manufacturers would never let on their console. Which is why if you ever see Nintendo letting those types of games on a Nintendo device, Nintendo's about to go out of business. Okay. But it's a good thing because you get games you'd never see on a console. It's a bad thing because you get games you would never see on a home console, like Seaman. Where if the Seaman gets angry, he'll throw shit at you.
I know Nintendo tried something like it, but it was with
Cubivore, but
come on, of all things.
Cubivore is like it's a simplistic take on Darwinism. Like, it's not as weird as that. Like, even though that's a relatively rare game to get, but Cubivore is not at the level of Seaman. Like, Cubivore never has you talking to the character, them getting angry at you and throwing shit. It would be like that Hey You Pikachu on the N64. Pikachu gets pissed off at you because you didn't feed him, so he throws shit at you over like through the screen. Seaman can do that to you. Seaman literally throws shit at you if he gets angry at you in Seaman. And it's obvious it's shit too. It's like it's clear.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, you threw shit at me, Seaman. Fuck you, Seaman. I'm erasing you, Seaman. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I would like to see the Dreamcast on there as well. There are some really great games that began life on the Dreamcast. Like I said, Skies of Arcadia Legends, made by the same team that made Phantasy Star 4. They took everything they learned from making those 4 Phantasy Star games and condensed it down into Skies of Arcadia, and that is arguably, I would say that's one of the best 6th gen JRPGs. I would put it up there with like Dragon Quest 8, Final Fantasy 12. I think it's better than Final Fantasy 10. Final Fantasy 10, if you take Titus out of the equation, pretty good game. Titus with the equation, it's like moderately okay. Without Titus, it's a really great art. Like, once you realize that Titus was never supposed to be the main character of that game, that Yuna, it's her story, Yuna is the main character, it's a much better game. You just got to get past the annoying, about to burst pimple that is Titus. But once you get past that, it's a great game. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I would like to see. We're never going to see. No, go ahead.
I was saying I'm sorry about that bad laugh.
Yeah, that bad laugh. Like, I mean, Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy XII both suffer from that issue where the characters that they foist upon you in the beginning of the game are not the main characters. Like, Titus isn't the main character of Final Fantasy X. Yuna is. Vaughn is not the main character of Final Fantasy XII. Ash is. Those are the main characters. Both of those are female main characters. And instead of, like, Square Enix is like, we're afraid to have female main characters. It's like, you've had female main characters in, like, arguably 2 of the previous Final Fantasy games before 7. Because arguably the main character in Final Fantasy 5 is Lena and Ferris, the 2 sisters. They're the main characters of that game.
And then you have Final Fantasy 6.
Yeah, the main character of that game is Terra, or Tina, depending on which translation you get. I know it's different for different regions.
I was gonna say various, but she was still a memorable character.
She's the main character of the game,
and that's all before. Yeah,
she's literally the main character of Final Fantasy VI is Terra. Because the whole point of the game is how the Emperor wants to overtake the world and control magic, and how normal humans can't use magic. Only Espers can use magic, and how like they went and kidnapped all these Espers and killed them and extracted their magic and equipped it to people so they could, create Maginites and shit. But the only person who can naturally use magic is Terra. Why? Because her father was the leader of the Espers, Maduin, the Esper of Chaos. And she got kidnapped by Emperor Gaspar and Kefka. So it's like, she's the main character of the fucking game. It's really her story. But they're like, no, we gotta insert an annoying male character. We can't have a female character lead this shit. We gotta have an annoying male character. And that's why we had Titus and Vaughn. Which is kind of sad because, like, really, I mean,
both of those games have potential.
Yeah, like I said, if you like, well, the worst thing about Final Fantasy 12 is that if they wanted to have a male main character, they had the perfect template for a male main character with Bosch, the Sky Pirate. He would have been a way more interesting main character than Vaughn. If they needed a male main character, but they like that shonen anime kid shit in JRPGs, and I don't know
AKA
why.
St. Cloud Strife.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Cloud is an emo. Like after Cloud and Squall, they started going with like this kid shit in Final Fantasy 12, like this young shonen boy thing, and I don't get it. I do not fucking get it. Because Cloud is a grown ass man. Squall is a grown ass man. He's pretty, but he's a grown ass man. And then after 7, and 8, they went with little kids, with young boys, and I'm like, are you like trying to hit that
Really?
15, 16? Yeah, because Zidane is like, I don't know if he is a kid, but he looks like a kid. Titus is a young
I
boy.
just
Like he
I was gonna make the joke that they pulled the Power Rangers joke.
and even if Titus isn't a young boy, he acts like a young boy. He acts like a little bitch. So yeah, let's keep it
But
real.
I don't.
Mm.
Yeah, I couldn't get into 9, and I played 10. 10 was okay, but I tried playing 9 at least a couple times, and I can't get into it.
I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. Whenever I play Final Fantasy 9 these days, I play it on PC, and I use cheats to level up quickly because I just don't have time to. That grind in the beginning of that game holds you back.
Mhm.
Everybody's like, "Oh, that's such a great game. It's so great." It's like
Well, I mean, here's
I've tried playing it, and I was like,
you have to
I don't know.
understand. You have to
I was gonna
understand.
say that there's something called the level 1 challenge and trying to get Excalibur 2.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
God,
have to
Cesar.
understand. You have to understand the context. Okay, like Final Fantasy 7, like a lot of the people who love that game, that Final Fantasy 7 is the first Final Fantasy they ever played. So for those people, 7 was great. Now for old school fans before who played Final Fantasy before 7, they're like 7's okay. They're either okay or they don't like it. Okay,
I was gonna say something's not bad to me, as I usually say that the only real big thing that I like about it is the battle system, and even you get on my case about that.
I mean, I'm not necessarily getting on anyone's case. I'm just saying that Final Fantasy VII's battle system isn't really unique. It doesn't add anything new to the Final Fantasy. Um, you know,
I was saying it was it was a good refinement of the system that we have.
yeah, it was. Well, we slightly refined what you were already doing in Final Fantasy VI, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess that's awesome. But anyway, so then, yeah, so like Final Fantasy VII, like there's a group of fan. It's split the fan base into three, right? You get the people who love Final Fantasy VII and everything about it, and a lot of those are people who the first time they played Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy VII. It's basically you got the people. Final Fantasy VII is like the first time they had sex. They're the dude who first time they had sex, and in their mind they're like, this is the best sex ever. The first time you have sex, it's not the best sex ever. Okay, it never is. Okay, you think it is because the first time, but really it's not. Okay, and that's Final Fantasy VII fanboys. They're just, yeah, it's the best. I'm like, it's not. It's okay. It's basic as fuck. Really, it's not that good. Then you get the people who are like, Final Fantasy VII is okay, or I enjoyed it, but I can see where people don't like it. They're pretty level-headed. Then you got the Final Fantasy VII fans like me who are like, I thought it was trash. Fuck that game. Because like Final Fantasy VII reached a whole new casual audience of fans of Final Fantasy who had never played any of the old ones, and then they want to tell us all about Final Fantasy. I'm like, bitch, I was playing Final Fantasy when you were playing. All you were playing with fucking Dubro games. So get the fuck out of my face. But
If
then
it
you
helps,
get
I'm in both of those camps a little bit. Thank you, Final Fantasy VII for that BS.
But then you get Final Fantasy VIII, which basically, like, they were like, oh man, 7 sold so much, we're going to double down on the emo, whiny main character with amnesia. Final Fantasy VIII. Like Cloud Strife is bad. Squall Leonhardt is like 5 times worse.
That character, yeah, that character really rubs me the wrong way.
You know, because like Cloud is an emo bitch, but there's a reason for it because he's just a simulacrum clone. He's a failed clone from created from Genova kit cells. So there's a reason he has no personality. Like the whole point, basically, Final Fantasy VII is a reverse Pinocchio story. Okay, like
Yeah.
Cloud Strife is emotionless and dead in the beginning of the game, and by the end of the game, he has a reason to fight and be a better living being. That's the whole point of the game. All right, it's his journey to discover. Like initially, he's like, "Well, this," and then he finds out, "Well, fuck, I'm just a monster clone created from Genova, a failed monster clone created from Genova cells that took the memory from Zack Fair. Like, I don't have any attachment to Tifa. I have Zack Fair's attachment that he wanted to have with Tifa, but I don't have, but I can be something and do something else." And it's that dichotomy. So 7, I mean,
you mean Eris or Aerith or whatever?
No.
What was it?
Cloud Strife is a clone from that he's one of the clones that was created from Genova cells. He's an imperfect clone because basically he didn't get all the superpowers that there were 3 major clones. Cloud, the other one that was supposed to be perfect that like didn't make it, and Sephiroth. Sephiroth, the one that didn't make it, Cloud, and then Sephiroth. Sephiroth is the second tier one that made it, and then there's Cloud, and Cloud is basically like the one. He's like, you have superpowers, but you're not nearly as good. So we're just gonna lock you in this little container. And so when that little group attacks that base and Zack Fair's there, he gets grievously wounded, and the pod opens and Cloud touches his body as he's dying and absorbs his memories. So that's why Cloud like basically gets Zack's sword. Like Cloud is just he's a failed Genova clone. That's it. That's the whole like. I mean, once you figure out the big twist in Final Fantasy VII, it's like, Eris was supposed to be this big, Eris was supposed to be part of these race of mystic people who basically are like environmentalists and talk about how the Shinra Corporation has been stealing the life force of the planet. But they kind of got tired of that shit and they killed her off, and they were like, well, we're gonna go with something different. That was them, they're like, fuck it, we're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it.
This is kind of
I already.
You're like, this is kind of stupid, so we're just gonna do something else.
No, it was a good idea. They just didn't want to do. They just went with something else. I mean, here's the thing. The only reason I hated it was because Eris was literally built to be the perfect healer, and anyone knows in JRPGs, the character who can heal your ass and keep you alive.
Never let the healer get killed.
The healer is the best. Like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. The female mage, the water chick, her overdrives heal the entire party. So you just keep her there and you have her use her special attacks so she can heal you and keep you alive during a fight. It's like you're once you unlock some of the best blades.
Once you unlock her limit breaks.
Well, the best blades to equip her with. Once you get the best blades to equip her with in the game, she literally can heal your party while doing damage, and you just keep on using that. Like, there's a certain point in Xenoblade Chronicles X where it gets way too easy to beat bosses. It's a joke. Even without the overdrive you get by summoning Pyrrha, it's just it's OP as fuck. But anyway, I think we've gone on.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, Kenoshi, Final Fantasy IX for people like me who are on that fuck modern 3D Final Fantasy, we want something that goes back to old school sentiment. They did Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX really appeals to that Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6 era of Final Fantasy.
And I like those games. I like Final Fantasy. At least Final Fantasy VI. I just did not. I did not. I could not get into that game. I couldn't get into the what they were trying to do.
Yeah, it's hard to get into Final
Yeah.
Fantasy 9. I'm not lying.
And
It really is.
usually, I'm able to wade through uh games with slow beginnings like that, but
Hello,
that
beautiful
one just
Agony. It's
I don't know,
Bill.
something about it just doesn't click.
If you want slow
Doesn't click.
beginnings, I'd say play Dragon Quest 4 or 5, I think. Oh
4.
god.
4 is the one where you have the time travel. No, 4 is the one where each chapter is a different character, and then once you get to like chapter 5 or 6, you bring all these characters you built up together to face to the game actually opens up. That is kind of slow. 5 is actually pretty good. No, I would say, which segues nice into our next topic. What
5
games?
was the one that
5 is the one where you get where initially you're not the ultimate hero. You have to like your character gets married, your kids go on a quest, all that shit. It's like multi-generational. And eventually your character is rescued by your kids after you've been turned into stone, and then you become the legendary hero. Like all this shit has to happen for you to become the legendary hero.
Okay.
5 is pretty good. Like I mean, it's not as bad. Like 4 takes a while to get started, but 5's not that bad. The story kind of keeps it going, but to segue nicely into games that take a while to get good, but then when they do, it's really good. I'm gonna say any Tales game. Any Tales game, in the beginning of every Tales game, there's a point where they're holding your hand and tutorializing you, and then they finally unleash the chains and say, "Okay, here's the world, have at it," and the game starts to get really good. Especially something like Tales of Symphonia or Tales of Fantasia, any Tales game really.
this is likely going to get occupied by RPGs. I'm going to say that right now, since my game that's a slow start would be Grandia 1.
Yeah, I agree. The first Grandia is kind of, which is why they fixed a lot of that in Grandia 2. But Grandia 1 is very like, kind of.
Even if you can't, even if you do interrupt your opponent when they're just about to unload their power on you.
Yeah, but I mean, when I say it's slow, I don't mean the combat. I mean it's slow as in unfurling the story, and the dialogue is kind of slow, and like just kind of, it's like, come on, man, get to it. Pick it up. I got another. Kenoshi, you have one?
Another what?
A game that starts out slow, but then it starts to get really good.
I'm trying to think. Thought the first Bravely Default started off a little slow.
Yeah, all those Bravely Default games start out slow though.
Yeah, yeah. It got. I like how they handled the twist in that game. At least the first one. But
yeah, I guess that's cool. But okay, I got one. I got one for you. I got a game that starts out slow, but then gets really good. The first Baten Kaitos. That game in the beginning starts out really slow. There's a lot of dialogue. What?
Called it that it's mostly RPGs in this section.
Yeah, Baten. Yeah, but some RPGs don't start out slow. Like Chrono Trigger doesn't start out slow. Chrono Trigger, in the very beginning of the game, there's some shit going on, and there's some dialogue, but you don't really think it means anything. And then the game throws you into the action. Like you literally you grab the pendant and you go back in time and you're fighting enemies, and it's just instantaneous. like Earthbound doesn't really start out slow. Um, you know, like Final Fantasy 4 doesn't really start out slow because the story kind of grabs you. It's like, damn, y'all just murdered this village full of people for their crystal. Wow, am I playing as the bad guy in a Final Fantasy game? Final Fantasy 5 doesn't really start out slow. Like those games really didn't. The original Breath of Fire started out slow, mostly because you only have one character and enemies have that automatic guts resurrection where you think you finish them off, but then they get back up and have another like 200, 300 HP.
Yeah, I would say that is bordering on.
Yeah, that's some bullshit. Yeah, the first Breath of Fire has a reverse difficulty curve because in the beginning of the game it's really hard, but once you start getting party members, the game gets really easy. And by the end of the game, the final boss is a joke. Even without cheats, it's just But anyway,
Yeah. Now I remember, Breath of Fire 5 was the one I was thinking about that had that annoyance of difficulty, especially at the start.
Well, Breath of Fire 5, the big thing with that game is that you're supposed to die a lot and accumulate knowledge and stuff like that. In order to get the true ending of that game, you have to play it like 4 times, which is some fucking bullshit. But anyway, the first Baiting Kato starts out really slowly. There's a lot of exposition. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of world explaining. And it lulls you into a sense of false security because there's a twist halfway through this fucking game that you're like, what? No, what? You don't see it coming. Yeah. Hands down, Baiting Katos is one of the best JRPGs of all time. And going back to one of our previous topics, if they brought the Nintendo Online Library back, I want to see Baiting Katos. Or even, look, Namco Bandai, re-release Baiting Katos. Fuck Baiting Katos Origins. I hate that fucking game. But the first Baiting Katos, re-release that game.
Bring it.
Bring it back. Have some more Callus, Shella,
Oh yeah,
Gabari, the Great Mizuti, Liud. I think I got all of them. Let me check. It's been a while since I played that game. Even though I have it in my GameCube, I just Baitin Katos characters. If they ever do a list of playable characters, yeah, there's Kallez, Shella, Gabari, Liud, Savina, Mizuti. Yeah, I forgot Savina. Savina is the Guilo knockoff. Well, Guilo is a knockoff of her, and then like Origins is a prequel. You find out that she was a little girl whose father was assassinated by the characters in the first game, and Guilo basically like talks to her. It's kind of weird. Like the Baiting Katos Origins is so bad, so fucking bad. Game is terrible. Hate that game. I hate that game. Fuck that game. But anyway, yeah. The game is great. I love it. Pretty goddamn good. But yeah, Baiting Katos starts out really fucking slow, gets really good by the end of the game. Our final topic, before we get to unpopular opinions, what IP did you initially dislike, but have since become a fan?
That's weird because I'm trying to actually think of which one it is.
Nothing?
Actually, got nothing.
No game that someone you were like,
Which is
man,
weird.
this game is terrible, and like maybe you hated it, and then eventually you got it. And you're like, this is actually pretty good.
I've been smart to be aware of games, so I honestly haven't found that mess in the first place.
All right, Kanoshi.
Yeah, I haven't found. I can tell you a game that I originally hated within a franchise, and that was Twilight Princess. Until I played it again a couple years ago, and it's like, oh, this game's not. This game's pretty decent. But other than that, I can't think of a franchise.
All right. Um. Well, it doesn't have to be a franchise; just be a game in a franchise. I'll tell you a game that initially I hated, and then I basically got back into it. Skyrim. Now, to be fair, the first time I played Skyrim, it was on the PS3. So when it first came out. So that should let you know about how bad that game played when it first came out. That is one of the few games that I actually returned and got my money back when I bought it. Um, since then I have put like over like 500 hours into Skyrim, but the caveat is what got me back into Skyrim was the sheer amount of modding that was added to that franchise. Like, it's like, this game sucks. But if I go to Nexus Mods, I can find someone I can find something I can add to this game to make it better. you know? And that made it, that made me a fan. Like, Bethesda's games, their base games are terrible. But with modding, their base games become so much better. Like, hey, the level up system in this game, I mean, even Oblivion has that problem. The level up system in this game is broken, and it encourages you not to actually use your primary skills to level up, and to like soft reset and go back to use like say like F1, F2, F3 quick saves in order to basically make sure you level up the right skills every time you level up. Well, guess what? They fixed that with a mod. So you can, if you have it on PC, you can download a mod and fix those issues. Which is great. So yeah, that's a franchise that I was like, I don't like this when it first came out. And now I'm like, I actually enjoy it. Like, I've since gone back and replayed a lot of those old games that I played when I was a kid and I didn't know what I was doing, because like I remember playing like Daggerfall and Arena, Elder Scrolls Daggerfall and Arena when I was a kid. I didn't know what I was doing. I was dying constantly. And now that I'm older and I can play them with mods and like more modern aesthetics and stuff like that added to it, they're actually pretty enjoyable. Some of them are still broken though because it's Bethesda. I mean, come on.
Hey,
It's Bethesda.
it happens.
Even stuff back then, like if you play like base Daggerfall, it's still you can spawn into dungeons. You can get kidnapped and locked into dungeons that have no entrance, no exit. And this was before
There's
Todd
no
Howard.
use. Oh God.
This is before Todd Howard. Bethesda has always had broken games. Okay. The thing is that Todd Howard's direction has made the games more casual, so you have a larger audience playing them, so it seems worse. But they've always been broken. Next, unpopular opinions, and then we'll wrap things up. So who wants to go first?
This is probably weird. This is probably a common one with me, but I'll just say it right now. I believe Twitter and Facebook are like web forms that you post your stuff online and let the comments flow. It makes me wish that the moderators were a lot more smarter in both of those places. Though Twitter has apparently smarter moderators than Facebook.
I agree. Well, with Facebook, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. To quote,
It's all about that money.
to quote that guy from that Disney movie, we've got to have the money.
Yeah.
But Kenoshi, do you have an unpopular opinion?
Um, PlayStation All Stars could have been had potential, but could have been better. But Sony squandered it.
Yeah, Sony shot that game in the ass. And then
Yeah,
acted
it could have been worse.
surprised when they shot it. It's like, what? You mean to tell me if I shoot someone in the ass, they might bleed out and die? I can't believe that. It's like they literally, like, the developers, like, yeah, we were heavily inspired by Smash Brothers. They, like, Sony's like, don't you tell those people that. I'm like, you better change this shit so it's not like Smash Brothers. It's like remember during the 16-bit era when Street Fighter 2 came out and all these clones came out, but then you'd have these games that they changed their fucking control scheme so it wouldn't be like Street Fighter 2, and the games inevitably sucked because they weren't like Street Fighter 2. It's like they've perfected it. Like for 2D fighters, Street Fighter 2's inputs and buttons perfected it. You really can't. I haven't played a 2D fighter that has gotten that feels as good as the button inputs that we had in Street Fighter 2. They made the wheel, folks. It's not going to get any better than this. Okay? And trying to do weird shit. Well, I just want to be unique and different. Okay, then your game's going to be like Eternal Champions. Or those myriad of other shitty 2D fighters.
I was gonna say, if I remember right, there's that 2D fighter that was on the 3DO. Oh god.
Oh yeah, well,
that'd be a nightmare for
they were
somebody.
all gonna rip off Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat, and it's sad. But anyway, yeah, that's my so
Unpopular opinion.
No, my unpopular opinion is just that my unpopular, I have two unpopular opinions. My first unpopular opinion is this. I think that I personally prefer the art style of pixels versus the 3D pseudo 3D they've been using in everything. Like I don't like the art style of Metroid 2, of the Metroid 2 remake or Metroid Dread. I don't like the art style of New Super Mario Brothers. I never liked the art style of New Super Mario Brothers. I saw past it because the gameplay was still solid. And for me, for a Mario game, it's all about that gameplay and the feeling of traversing the levels with jumps and all those special abilities and stuff. But I never have liked that art style. I think it's trash. So when I see the new Super Mario Bros. Art style, I'm like, fuck this shit again. And my other unpopular opinion is about ActRaiser Renaissance. Some people are saying the game looks pretty bad. I don't think it looks terrible, in my humble opinion. But, like, I really do wish that they had used more of a 2D pixel art style, like a game that I just bought for like $13 off of Steam called Steel Assault. Because Steel Assault looks good. Steel Assault looks like something you would want to play. And the art style is really good. And I'm like, if they had done that for the ActRaiser 2 remake, I probably would be like, man, this game looks great. But instead they were like, no, we have to use this cheap-ass engine. This cheap, ugly-ass engine. And that's exactly what it is. It's a cheap, ugly-ass engine that they used. Or maybe the art assets they used for the engine, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I'm not enthralled with that game. But that's just me. But it's for a little bit over $12, $13.49. You get a really good 16-bit platformer with some really good music. So, yeah. Anyway, those are my 2 unpopular opinions. Anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
I think I'm all right.
All right, Kenoshi, anything you want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
All right. I think I'm gonna do my cast next Tuesday.
All right,
I just need to gather some topics.
all right,
Let you
all right.
guys know when the topics are when I find them. So
Okay, then, if you need someone on your panel, don't hesitate. I'm always available as long as it's at night and not too late. That's a lot of qualifiers for always being available. I'll try to be there. But that's the end of the cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you for joining. If you would like to be if you would like to be a guest on the cast, just DM me. The links are in the description section. You can reach me and we can make an accord and all that type of stuff. Or you can talk to me on the Discord. The link for that is also in the description under the video. So that's in the podcast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, and
Hype responsibly, ladies and gentlemen. This
good
is the
night.
last this is the last podcast of the month, anyways.
Yep. The end of the month, last of September. We won't have